This student was in the bottom 1% of test takers on one of the hardest medical exams in the world, and she wasn't even a doctor. For over 10 years, she thought that she was just a bad test taker. Now, she wasn't. Instead, she was like a coiled spring, ready to be released. And 2 months later, she was in the top 3%, using the exact same materials and being the exact same person that she was before. Here's what unlocked her and what will allow you to become a dramatically better test taker in a short period of time. The first key was that she was studying at the wrong level of detail. Have you ever studied something, like really studied it, and felt like you understood it, and then you still got questions wrong on it? And then you think, I literally just studied this. What's wrong with me? This is one of the most frustrating experiences in test prep. And it's the thing that makes you start to believe that maybe you're just a bad test taker. Now, the student, Miriam, was experiencing this. She is a dentist taking a medical school exam, and she kept studying topics and feeling like she got it, and then she would still miss questions on the exact same topics that she just studied. The issue wasn't that she was a bad test taker, the issue was that she was studying at the wrong level of detail. For example, in some questions, she would understand the big picture, but then she would miss specific pieces underneath it that she needed to understand. Think of it like an SAT reading passage. You might read the passage and you understand the argument, and then you still get the question wrong. Not because you didn't understand the passage, but because maybe you didn't know what one word in the passage meant, and they were asking, what is the definition of this word? The problem isn't your reading comprehension. The problem may have been that you just had a vocabulary gap. But if you don't focus on the specific things that you are weak at, you're gonna walk away thinking, oh God, I guess I'm just bad at reading. This is what happened to Miriam. She would get a question on a medical condition called cardiac amyloidosis. Now, she would understand the big picture, she'd know what is it, and then what does it do to the body? But then the question asked something about a very specific protein that was involved in the process for that particular variant of amyloidosis. She had never heard of it. This wasn't that she didn't understand what amyloidosis was. This was a very specific gap on something that she just didn't know that she had to know. The fix for this is what I call the shopping list. When you get a question wrong, don't just look at the answer and go to the explanation and just read it mindlessly. Instead, go back through the entire question and then notice, what made me feel uncomfortable? Was there some knowledge that I didn't know? Or a concept that came up that I was like a little weak on? Were there skills that I would need to master in order to make sense of every single sentence? I coach medical students and doctors on some of the hardest board exams in the world, from the USMLEs to COMLEX to ABIM and ABA and all sorts of board certification exams. And one of the most common mistakes that I see is that people will get a question wrong on, say, like heart failure. And then they'll go and then they'll just think, oh, I just need to read a bunch of stuff on heart failure. But in reality, there's something very specific about heart failure that they didn't know. Like maybe they didn't know how to read an EKG. That is a skill. Reading a bunch of facts about heart failure and about the pathophysiology will not help if every single time you get a question on an EKG, you're gonna get it wrong. This could work in both directions. Some people study big picture stuff and then they miss the details, right? That was what was happening to Miriam, our student who went from the bottom 1% to the top 3%. Other people are super detail focused and then they miss the big picture. Both fundamentally have the same problem. They didn't audit the exact pieces that they needed or skills or gaps that they needed in order to get those questions correct, right? They didn't see the patterns and then the process that they needed in order to fix it on the back end. So now you have your shopping list of every little piece that made you uncomfortable. And now the goal is that you need to address every single one of those pieces in it. So a scary topic of like, oh my God, I just suck at reading, right? Actually becomes, okay, well, maybe I need to work on my vocabulary, or maybe I need to pay attention more carefully on reading each item carefully. Maybe I need to do a better job of paraphrasing as it is that I'm reading sentences, or when I read one sentence, I need to relate it to sort of the entire paragraph. Each of those things is either a set of knowledge or skills or habits, and each of those things, when you break it down into its individual component, is actually not that hard on its own. When Miriam started doing this, her practice question ranking went from literally bottom 1% where she started to now creeping much higher. And that was literally in just 10 days. She didn't learn more and she didn't spend more time studying. She just focused her energy on the right things that were holding her back. But there was a second lock on that spring that really allowed her to make a massive improvement very quickly. So if you're studying for your medical boards like the USMLEs or COMLEX or shelf exams or the ABIM or ABA or any other board certification exam, be sure to sign up for our 14-step free program where we will break down how you can get higher scores in less time. And if you're interested, be sure to book a free call with our team where we can look at what it is that's holding you back and, if it makes sense, explain how we can can work with you in order to accelerate this process. That second key was that she could only answer a question if it was asked in a certain way. Have you ever studied a topic and then someone asks you about it in one way and you nail it, but then they ask it in a slightly different way and now it feels like you're completely lost? If you've ever had that experience of knowing something but not being able to answer a question on it in a particular fashion, this is probably why. Think about vocabulary. If someone gives you a word and then asks you for the definition, you might get it right every single time. But now let's say that someone describes the concept and then they ask you, hey, what's the term or the word for this? And then suddenly you're stuck. You knew it, right? Because you could do it in a certain direction, but you can't access it from the reverse direction where they describe the concept and then you have to identify that concept and then give the word for it. This is one of the biggest hidden reasons that people can underperform on any exam. They can answer one particular question in one particular way, just not the way that the test happens to ask it. The fix for this is to test yourself in both directions. So for anything that you study, test yourself in as many different directions as the exam could ask it. So for example, if you're using flashcards, don't just make a card that goes from term to the actual definition. You would also want to make a card that goes from the definition to the term as well. Similar thing, if you have a scenario and then you're going to ask yourself like to identify the concept, you might also give yourself a concept and then ask yourself to generate a scenario, right? Because either of those two things are possible on an exam. Now, if you're not using flashcards, that's okay. The principle works for pretty much anything. When you review, just ask yourself, can I answer this if it were phrased completely differently, or if they ask it in a reverse order? Our student who went from the bottom 1% to the top 3% in only 2 months was testing herself in only one direction. So if she made a flashcard, it would be something like, what is it called when someone has trouble breathing when they lie down, right? She could get that right every single time, right? Because she knew, oh, okay, well, that's called orthopnea. But on the exam, they might give her that term and ask her to explain the mechanism of that. And she would get stuck because it was not as easily recallable given the way that she prepared that orthopnea meant that when you lay down flat, then it will cause more shortness of breath. The other version of this is even sneakier, and it's super important if you use flashcards in your study, and especially if you have ever used AI to try to generate flashcards. Now, the problem that a lot of people have is that they will give away the answer to the important thing that they need to recall in the question. I'll give you an example. If the flashcard says something like epidural hematoma, why does it present so quickly? The fact that you are saying that it presents quickly is actually doing a lot of the work for you. So like one of the most important things about knowing about an epidural hematoma is the fact that it does present quickly. But in the question, if I say that, then it's only priming myself for that. And so I'm not actually actively testing myself on that fact. And I'm not very likely to remember that on the actual exam. A better version of that is to ask yourself, okay, if this is an important fact, let's not give it away on the front of the card. So for example, I would say something like epidural hematoma, use the pathophysiology to explain how fast it presents. Note that I didn't say that it presents really quickly, right? It might present really slowly. I don't know based on the way that I worded the question. The key is that you want to actively test yourself on the things that you are most likely to need them, and you should test them in the way that the test is likely to force you to use them. Now, after fixing both of these, Miriam's score started to creep up even higher. And this is something that she'd never experienced before on these sorts of standardized exams. And it really started to break her belief around being a bad test taker. So she had the shopping list, she was testing herself in both directions, and she was starting to score in the top 20% on her exam. And then her score didn't move. This led us to the third key, which is that she was fighting the wrong battle. Now, have you ever felt genuinely prepared for a test and then you sat down and then you underperformed relative to where you were supposed to get? You studied, you knew the material, but then something happened on test day and your score really didn't reflect what it is that you actually knew. And so your score was a lot lower than maybe your practice test scores or what it is that you were predicted to get. Another way that this shows up is if like you're the one that all of your friends come to for help with studying for exams, and yet you still will score lower than them, right? This is a really common cause of that. So this was happening to Miriam. After 6 weeks, her exam scores went basically flat. She was going from the 40s to literally she got to the 70s, but then she got stuck. So it was like 70, 71. And you could see it because every single time that she was studying something, she could get at least 80% on that thing. So the knowledge was clearly there. However, her score was still stuck. So here's what I told her. If you don't get your goal score, it's not going to be because of knowledge. It's going to be because you panicked on test day. Now, tell me if this has ever happened to you, right? Where you had prepared properly, but because you panicked or you felt anxious, you weren't actually able to bring to bear all the knowledge and skills and training that you'd done prior to your exam. Now, for Miriam, she had a very interesting backstory. She had moved from a different country where literally everything about the way that she had studied and everything the way that the system had encouraged them to learn was different from the way that she was learning it for these US medical exams. She had gone from being one of the best students to now really struggling on exams and thinking, I don't know, maybe I'm just not smart enough. And so she carried that belief for 5 years. Now, here's the thing that almost no study advice ever really addresses. You can have perfect knowledge and perfect technique, but if your nervous system is hijacked by anxiety or panic on test day, none of it is gonna matter. We've worked with a number of students who could score in the top 10 or 20% on their exams, but then they would fail, meaning like they would go from the top 10 or 20% to like literally the bottom 3% just because they panicked on test day. In those situations, your score is not a reflection of how much you know, it's literally a reflection on how you were feeling on the exam. The fix for this is not more studying. Yes, like to a certain extent, if you think that you're a bad test taker, you need to change your approach and get real results so that you can directly have evidence that contradicts those negative beliefs of like, I'm not a good test taker. That said, more evidence is necessary, but it is not a sufficient condition to dealing with test taking anxiety. There's a specific therapy that I recommend called EMDR, which is massively helpful for people who are trying to study and improve their test taking performance, especially if they've had negative experiences or sort of like traumas around test taking in the past, either when they were in college or sometimes in high school or middle school, or oftentimes they actually come from like elementary level sort of experiences. So combined with shifting practice conditions that simulate the real exam. So if you've ever studied hard and felt ready and then you underperformed, the problem might not be your preparation, right? It might be what's happening between your ears. And remember, that is fixable. It's just that most people don't even realize that this is a big enough problem, or the most common thing that people will say is like, oh, I just don't have time to deal with that. Or, oh no, I know I've got test taking anxiety, but like, I just need to study more. I don't have enough time. Oftentimes test taking anxiety in and of itself can be the thing that even if you are perfectly prepared for an exam can still cause you to fail. So she worked extensively on this, and then 3 weeks later, she took the exam again. At this point, she had scored 83%. She would have been thrilled with a score in the 70s. And here she was weeks before her exam, and she had scored an 83% on an unused practice exam. She went from 49% to 83%, literally like the bottom 1% on this exam to the top 3% for her particular cohort in about 2 months. It was really cute. Her husband called her like the Michael Jordan of exams. It was great. And the most important realization that she had was that she was never a bad test taker. In other words, she had a lot of the things that she needed. It's just that she was not using them in the right way. And as a consequence, she was being held back. So if you've ever told yourself you're a bad test taker, you may be in the same situation. Be sure to subscribe so that you can unlock your own coiled spring. Now, the shopping list and reverse cards only work if you actually remember what it is that you studied. I've reviewed 28,655 flashcards every day for 17 years, and it meant that I barely had to study. I break down how you can study less and remember over 100 times more in this video, so be sure to click it.